Welcome to the MotUS Edge, where we celebrate business, primarily youth sports facility management, leadership, and motivation. Co-hosted by Stacy Rowe, Cole Stott, Kevin Brubaker, and Casey Jones. We are here to fill your cup with knowledge, laughter, affirmations, and comfort knowing that you're not alone. You can and will succeed with the MotUS Edge.
Hello and welcome to the MotUS Edge. It's the Casey and Stacy show today, and we are super excited to talk with you guys about networking in and out of the industry, what it is and why it's important. Take it away, Casey.
Yeah, man, I love networking. First of all, I love when it's just Stacy and I here.
It's the best.
The other guys, they were busy today, and we were kind of happy about it. So it's like, our morning radio show here. But
that's right.
I don't know. I heard the term networking early on when I got into business. I don't know that I really knew what it meant or knew if I was doing it, but I felt like I've always had an outgoing personality, wasn't scared to talk to people. And to me, that's really what networking is. And along the way, I'd read different books and different things that would kind of talk about it. But once again, it's just so simple. It's just talking to people and like, hey, what do you do? What's your career? What are you involved in? And then obviously within our own circles, it's easy because we're going to different cheerleading competitions or events or coaches conferences and things like that. So we're constantly running into people within our own business, our own industry, and it's just basically talking to them to pick their brain. Many years ago, I would go and do choreography. Mind you, it wasn't very well, but I did it. And I got the opportunity to travel to a lot of different gyms. And to me, that was the most important part about it. I wanted to go to these gyms and see what they did better than our gyms. And let's face it, I oftentimes wasn't being hired by the big dogs, the best of the best. So some of them were small and upcoming businesses, but I could always find something that they did better than we did. And then I'd try to bring that back to our own program.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny because when I was in my very early days, I was super young when I started the gym, 22 or 23, I think. And I was so closed-minded, like closed off to, I didn't want to be friends with any other gym owners. What my business was my secret and my routines were my secret and how we did things was, I don't know. I was very kind of shut off to that, but I think that was my young immaturity. And as I got older, it didn't take long. So as I got older, a couple years into the sport, I realized, it's a very lonely place if I live my life this way,
Right.
for forever. Right. So I just want to, get to know some of the other gym owners and have friends and, hey, are you struggling with the same thing I'm struggling with? And what do you think about this? And, it's building relationships with, that's networking, kind of like you said, it's just building relationships with other industry professionals in the sport of All-Star, but then elsewhere too. I feel like outside, it was probably in my 30s where I really started kind of craving and wanting to network outside of the industry as well. Like, what are people doing to run their business? What are other sports businesses doing? What are other, what are gymnastics facilities doing? What are soccer clubs doing? What are technology people doing, and kind of network and make friends in outside areas to help my business be better too. So I think that's a part of it also.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, let's face it, we're here this morning because of networking. That was Cole and I met, gosh, at this point, nearly 30 years ago, and
Yeah.
I was a customer of his, um, you know, and then after I was no longer a customer, I mean, I still kind of was, but, he went the varsity route and, but, it was different, but we stayed in touch. We would talk, at least a couple of times a year. And then we always had different ideas and different thoughts, and we kicked around all these different kind of businesses. We even kicked around starting a trampoline park one time, and then lo and behold,
Thank God we didn't do that.
I know. That was kind of I mean, if you own a trampoline park, good for you, but
Right.
I'm glad I don't. So,
Same.
but that's what led us here to today was, just the early days of networking within the industry. But much like yourself, as I've aged and cheerleading in that industry is a huge part of my life, but I have all these other interests as well. So I've met people outside of this industry, and I'm really gained an interest in real estate and all these other ventures that I just love business. So, um, meeting different people and having different opportunities come into my life, then I've been able to have some really, really good opportunities, by people that I've met in the industry and outside of the industry. And I think that's important. A lot of people in the cheerleading industry do more than cheerleading. So I love to hear those stories as well.
That's true, actually. And we have a lot of amazing, I feel like, all-star cheerleaders who have graduated, gone on to college, and started their own, they're adults now running their own businesses outside of the industry, which I think is pretty awesome, pretty cool too. Um, I think that for a networking perspective, like you said, Casey, we can meet and hang out and talk to coaches on the weekends when we're at events, for sure. And I think that's a great way to network. And you should get to know the other coaches at the events. But I think that we're also focused on our competition at that time and busy, So I encourage people to, to do networking, to engage in networking. There's a couple different things that you can do. You can get involved in your local chamber of commerce. I think we didn't touch on that, but networking in your local community where you're at specifically is super important.
Yeah, that's
Get
huge.
get to know the banker in the area, get to know the flooring company, get to know the HVAC company, get to know, the doctor and the pediatrician and the dentist and, the other people that have businesses that make your community, and so networking at the Chamber of Commerce, I think, is really great. And then attending industry conferences. If you're a MotUS member, you can attend the MotUS Business Expo. That's free as for members. And it's a great business conference geared towards gym owners, but it's business, a lot of it is relatable to any business, because it's just business focused.
I've been to a lot of conferences, and I'm not biased when I say this. The MotUS conference is the best. It is literally hands down the best conference that I've ever been to. And
Yeah,
once again, I get to meet all these great people, all these great gym owners, and I get to pick their brains because I promise you that they do something better than we do, and I want to know what that is so that we can potentially bring it into our own businesses. But, that's you said something that's really important to me, and it's the words community, and our own local community is really where it all starts, and that was something early on. I used to say this, and I still do, probably not as much as I used to, but I wanted Stingrays to be a household name within our community. I wanted everybody in our county, we're in Cobb County, and that was our goal. I wanted everybody in our county to know what we were and what we were about, because I felt like we could make an impact on youth sports. And with that, like you said, the doctor's office, the dentist, that's a thing. I want to be known in all of them and support them so that they support us.
100%. If you want, if you're at the dentist, you're sitting in the dentist chair and, oh, you have kids, what do your kids do? Oh, they cheer. Oh, are you at Premier Athletics? Are you at Stingrays? Like, that's what you want coming out of the dentist's mouth or the dental hygienist's mouth. You want your business to be at the top of everybody's mind in your community.
Absolutely.
I agree. That was my goal too, Casey. I used to actually say to people when I was teaching a lot of classes, this was more for marketing, but I think it kind of applies here as well. I always used to say to people, how far away from your facility can you get? Can you stop at a gas station and ask for directions and they know who you are and where to and how to give those directions to somebody? Is it a mile away? Is it the gas station on the corner right by your business? Is it a mile away? Is it 2 miles away? Is it 3 miles away? How far away can you get? Now, granted, that doesn't necessarily apply today because who stops at the gas station for directions anymore? But when I used to say that, it applied. And I think that, but and I think it still applies today in theory, just like, thinking through that, like, I wonder how far away I can get from my facility where everybody in the area knows who we are and what we do and, recommends us.
I mean, it's crazy. I have literally gotten off some planes in foreign countries and seen Stingray shirts before. And I'm just amazed. I'm like, why is there a Stingray shirt here? And then you got to strike up a conversation and, because you may not recognize them, and how did they get that shirt? But just some incredible things have happened over the years. We started years ago, early on in our tryout phase, of giving everyone a sticker, and it had Rays on it, and it had the year, 2021 or whatever the year was, and So literally that became such a cool thing that you couldn't go anywhere in our county without seeing those stickers, and then once again, then it spawned into something totally different. And we had, I believe it was a dad that that started it, but it started a raise on the road thing. So he would take a picture of the sticker, and put it. And so literally it would be like, I'm in Florida at such and such. Here's a raise on the road, and
That's
literally
pretty
we would
cool.
have those stickers coming in from all over the country. So
That's a really cool
pretty
idea.
cool thing.
Yeah. That's awesome. What are some other great conferences? I know the USASF conference, the national conference that the USASF has, I think is another really good opportunity for networking. I've never done something I've always wanted to do, but it's so expensive. I've never done the Disney conference that they host where you can go and it's imagination something. I don't know. I don't know if you've ever heard of
I
that
didn't
one, but
even know that was a thing, but I know who will go. My daughter and my wife would probably accompany her. They love
well,
all things Disney.
yeah, I would love to go to that one. It is very, very expensive. But I've done some technology conferences in New York City before where it's just all about technology and what's coming in technology and how you can use technology in your business. I've done that a few times. And I think the point of that is just, there's a billion. I've done marketing conferences. But I think the message is just, go to the conferences in your industry, but also challenge yourself, even if it's every other year or every 3 years, to pick a different conference that's outside of cheerleading altogether, that whether it's marketing or technology or leadership or, whatever the case may be. I think those are so beneficial.
Yeah, early on, I spent at the time it was quite the investment, but I would go to different things and it was, motivational things, but Zig Ziglar and different speakers. I remember, Lance Armstrong was at one, and what's the women's basketball coach at Tennessee who spoke at?
Oh, Pat
Gosh,
Summit.
yes. Oh my goodness, she did a great job. But
She was phenomenal.
those were expensive to go to, but I would always come away with 2 or 3 things that were just valuable.
Yep.
One of which pops to my head that I still use today. So you're absolutely right. And then I've got one more suggestion on the networking. To me, this is a little outside of the box or not traditional, but it's exactly the same thing. I did an event last year. It was a huge part of my year. 29029 Everesting. Basically, you climb the equivalent of Mount Everest, but you do it. They have 6 different sites, but you sign up, and there are 300 people there, and it's expensive as well to do. It was an investment, and it's an investment in time. Literally, you spend 7 or 8 months of your year preparing for it and training for it, and it got different coaches calls and a whole community built into this. But that community became a networking opportunity. So once again, you're surrounding yourself with motivated people because, hey,
Yeah.
we're all going to go climb the equivalent of Everest. Um, Once again, it could be challenging because it was expensive. So, but once again, motivated people that have the means to do it. So, once again, it was an entire weekend of being surrounded by a lot of business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people that, that are just great to talk to and to talk shop with. So
Yeah.
it doesn't have to necessarily be a conference. You can join a local running club, a local hiking club, something where you get outside and spend time with people because you're going to ultimately end up talking to them.
Yeah.
I
Which
used
is
to.
a great idea. And I commend you so tremendously for doing the Everest climb. I will not ever participate in that with you, but I will be happy to come and cheer you on and give you high fives and
Well,
hand you water.
there are many, many lesser things to do as well. So, I used to be really into cycling,
funny.
and I would go and I would do these group rides. And once again, you're meeting motivated people. You're meeting people that, have businesses and run businesses and, just another way to
totally.
network.
Well, I think that everyone should attend the MotUS Business Expo. And in order to do that, you need to join MotUS. MotUS is a community of gym owners working together to help each other grow. As a member of MotUS, you get access to our Gym Owners Vault, which includes templates for every aspect of your business. We continue to add new resources constantly, In addition, you are added to the private VIP owners Facebook group, as well as the opportunity to join monthly webinars geared towards gym owners. You also receive amazing discounts from our affiliate members: the Cheer Expo, Choice Events, All Out Brands, Infinity, Vault Event Media, CheerSounds, Bookshop Fundraising, and more. Join the movement today at www.joinmotus.com. That's www.joinmotus.com. And you can attend the MotUS Business Expo in Nashville, September 28th through 30th, which is pretty awesome. So join MotUS today.
Free for all MotUS members.
That's right. It's the best free conference on the planet.
Yep. All right. I think it's time for a dad joke. You ready?
I think you're right.
Stace?
Yeah.
All right.
Ready. Let's do it.
Why did the sun let off a massive explosion?
I don't know.
It was startled.
I don't know why, but I was like picturing the sun farting. Which, I mean, I guess you can kind of say that's what it does, right? When it has like little, what do you call it?
A little burst. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. So our next topic, Casey, is to share our craziest and unexpected places where we've promoted our businesses and perhaps got a new customer out of it.
Man, I got about 1 million of those. I was thinking about that last night, and when I first got into this, I was much younger than I am now. My wife and I cheered together. We were actually partners. So, we were working in cheerleading, and then I started my own gym at 25 years old. So I still had a couple of abilities then. And the thing is, people love tricks. And we love to stunt. So we were stunting everywhere we went. If we were at a concert, we were going to do a stunt and take a picture. If we were in the grocery store, we were going to stunt and take a picture. It didn't matter where we were going to stunt and take a picture of it, which people love. They gravitate to that. So then they come up and they start talking to you. And next thing you know, you are promoting your company. So that was, I don't have one place. I just have tons of places.
I think, I got a couple. I have two, actually. So I had to do jury duty one time, and several times, but I this one time in particular, I was at jury duty and I got selected. I got down to the very end. I didn't actually make it onto the jury, but I was there for quite a while and had become friendly with this woman that was sitting next to me. And she had a 4-year-old. So by the time the day was over, I had signed her up for a preschool tumbling class. And that was pretty awesome that I met her at jury duty and signed up a preschool tumbling class kid. My husband was like, only you would take an opportunity to sign a kid up while you're on jury duty. And then
you're only making $25 a day to be on jury duty. So you got to make that up somehow.
Right. And then my second one, which actually I think is funnier, is I was at the gynecologist. Yes, sir. I was at the gynecologist, and the doctor comes in, and I have my Premier Athletic t-shirt on. And actually it was kind of funny. So she was teaching at the same time, which is always like, I don't know if you have to deal with this as a man, but you go to the doctor and they're like, P.S. I have my clinical student, whatever, do you mind if they participate? And for and that happens, sometimes at the dermatologist, sometimes wherever. But anyway, when it happens at the gynecologist, it's like, really, do we have to have extra people in here? Come on.
That has never happened to me at the gynecologist, but I do understand.
And so anyway, so she had her student in there. So the two of them were in there. She sees my Premier shirt and she's like, "Oh, you work at Premier Athletics?" And I was like, "Yes, actually I own Premier." And she was like, "Oh, I just started coaching at such and such high school. I would love to bring my school team there." And I'm like, "That's amazing." We're talking about, we're talking about the school team coming to the gym. And then her daughter wanted to take a tumbling class. And so got her situated for the school team and the tumbling class. And then the assistant starts talking about how his wife is an author. And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I'm an author." And we ended up exchanging business cards and talking about books and all the things too. So I sold Premier and books in the same appointment at the gynecologist's office.
Yeah, I make a point, and it's funny because people ask me this all the time. They see me at competition, and rarely at competition do I ever have anything on that says Stingrays, because I like to kind of be under the radar. I don't want anybody to know. I love to sit in the back and listen to people talk smack, and they don't do that as easily if you've got your gear on. So, but around town, I'm always wearing something Stingrays, so or wherever, just all of my t-shirts and everything. So both my boys played travel baseball. We spent a lot of time. I mean, gosh, those weekends are long, just like a cheerleading weekend. But I used to pick up a lot of business at the baseball park because, frankly, baseball is not my sport. I enjoyed playing it. I don't really enjoy watching it because it's so slow. And when it's a full weekend of that, I get a little bored. So I'd get to know the families on the team. And then, of course, they would, many of them had daughters that are hanging out and they're bored. And, I'm sitting in my chair. And then lo and behold, there's a kid behind me doing some bad cartwheels. And next thing you know, I turn around and I'm fixing cartwheels at the baseball tournament. So I've gotten many, many customers that way.
That's hysterical.
5 or 10 minutes, I can make a cartwheel a lot better. And then his parent, like, how do you know how to do that? And then it strikes up a conversation. And next thing you know, they're bringing their kid in.
That's awesome. That's
yeah.
awesome.
So those are always fun. I think of one in particular, like I was pretty close to their family. And literally, I love kids. Heck, I think I like other people's kids better than mine. At least that's what my kids think sometimes. I mean, I try to explain to them, like, listen, these other kids are going to pay me money, and you guys just cost me money. So
right. And they're actually kind of nice to us. I think what we can guarantee for sure is that the other kids like us better than our own kids like us. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, just once again, I mean, we were talking about that earlier. Anything in your community, you get out there and people love tricks. So you go and you go to the taste of Ackworth or whatever. And we used to do this early on in business, take some kids over there or do some stunts or whatever and throw up a TV with some videos on it. And next thing you know, you're meeting a lot of people. And like I said, kids gravitate towards seeing the tricks. So I also used to, in the younger days, Heather and I I would always sign us up for any type of thing they had at school, like career day. Because you go in and I didn't like to flip too much, but Heather would do a flip. And if we had room, we would do a stunt and then we would literally pass out free class. Call this number for a free class, and that was our marketing back in the day. There was no social media or anything like that. And man,
was that before kids or after kids? Because I've tried to go to the career day at the schools and my children are like, no, Mom, you can't go.
Well, this was when usually like earlier elementary school. So they still,
they thought it was cool.
Too bad then.
Yeah. Yep. Very cool. Very cool. So I know that Emily has done a lot of camps and counseling and different things like that in the summer, right?
Yeah.
That she enjoys. And you are heavily involved in CheerFest camp. So tell us a little bit about
Absolutely.
that.
I love camp. Camp has been a huge part of our family and we are blessed to be a part of CheerFest. So let me tell you a little bit about that. We would love for you all to, if you got kids or people in your gym or whoever, just, we would love for you guys to check out our premier residential summer camp for cheerleaders of all ages and levels. CheerFest has top professional instructors from across the country. Campers aged 7 to 17 will learn from and train with the best at CheerFest. Athletes are broken into groups so they receive the highest quality of instruction in jumps, tumbling, flexibility, dance, and conditioning while enjoying the ultimate camp experience. Join us at CheerFest for 6 fun-filled days of cheerleading and activities while making lifelong friends and memories. Register at cheerfest.com. Once again, that is cheerfest.com, CheerFest.com. We'd love to see you or your athletes there.
In addition to CheerFest being a really cool and awesome camp, I think that on the topic of networking, it's also another great way to network for the kids too. Like there's so many of the kids that come to camp, whether it's CheerFest camp or another camp, and you can probably speak to this with Emily. they have their own form of kid networking, if you will. And then, 10 years from now, you run into somebody and like, oh my God, I knew you at CheerFest camp. And that turns into an opportunity, or I met you at camp and that turns into an opportunity, something else down the road. And I think that just all-star cheerleading in general is that way. I think
Absolutely. Well,
if
these
you were
kids they're talking all over the country,
Yep.
on social media. So this is just a platform that they can come together and spend some time together. And literally, popular camp in our area is it's a YMCA camp, and it's Camp High Harbor. But a lot of kids from this area they go there. But it literally changed my kid's life. So I couldn't go to camp as a kid. We didn't really have the means to do it, and so it's not something that I ever got to participate in. So I didn't quite understand until I saw it through my own children what a week of being away from mom and dad and being at a true camp can do. I mean,
I used to go to Camp
huge impact.
Sacagawea with my cousin Kelly. I remember that. I don't even remember where Camp Sacagawea is or if it still exists, but that's where I went when I was a kid.
I'm really blessed to be a part of CheerFest because it's a week of camp for me, and that's the thing. I love to I go and I stay the entire time and I get to see it through the kids. But the reality is I'm like an adult enjoying camp as well.
Right. And the staff is incredible. Kelly does a wonderful job putting on the camp and just making sure that all the kids have a great experience. It's awesome. I love it. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's another thing too. If you're interested in if you're listening to this and you're a coach or an instructor, then there's opportunities to come work at CheerFest. And man, those guys are so incredible. It's literally like they will work all day teaching cheerleading, and then on their own time at night, they're spending hours together coming up with new drills and sharing coaching techniques just on their own because they love what they do.
Yep. It's awesome. All right. Well, it is time, Casey, for our Simon Sinek quote. My man, Simon, there are a finite number of problems, but an infinite number of solutions. That is today's quote. What are your thoughts?
I love that. I mean, that is absolutely true. Finding the solutions are often the hardest thing. And the thing that I've learned is most of our problems are self-created. We made them. And if we knew the solution, then we wouldn't have made the problem. So oftentimes to me, the most important thing, that solution lies elsewhere with someone else or with God or whatever it is. But, most problems that I've created, I can't think my way out of it. I had a good friend who used to always say this. He's like, can't fix a broken brain with a broken brain, and his point was to go and ask for help and seek that solution from someone else who had the answer.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that sometimes, because there are an infinite number of solutions for every problem, that can paralyze us sometimes to do nothing and make no solution or avoid the problem. I think that we as humans tend to be guilty of that sometimes. And so, I kind of live by the motto, fail forward fast. Whether you are deciding the solution on your own or you're reaching out for help, like you said, Casey, you do need to make a decision and pick a solution. Pick one of the many and go with it and make it work.
It's all about taking action, and that is the thing that you can't sit back and just wait on the problem to go away. You've got to take action. Even if it's incorrect, that will lead you
somewhere.
Yes.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree. So today's message is make sure that you are networking in and outside of the industry. Take action, right? Sell your business everywhere you go. Don't be afraid to sell your business at the gynecologist's office, the least likely place to sell your business. But make sure that you're taking those opportunities along the way. I would love to have you on. Any entrepreneurs out there, gym owners, if you're a former all-star and you're owning a business, we would love to have you on and talk about your business and what you're doing. Feel free to sign up to be our guest. You can do so at joinmotus.com. Click on the podcast page and fill out the form that says be our guest. Be sure to follow us on YouTube at the MotUS Edge Podcast and on Instagram and X at Join MotUS. Follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you like what we're doing and you want to hear more, let us know. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the MotUS Edge. We hope you had a blast. Join us next week for more on business, leadership, and motivation. Subscribe and follow the show where you get your podcasts. Subscribe to our newsletter at joinmotus.com. The MotUS Edge podcast is produced by ClantonCreative.com.